Hello and welcome to another episode of the Expat Coffee Break. My name is Javier, and this is a podcast dedicated to sharing personal experiences of immigrants and telling their stories of what it's like to move to a new country. This time, I have an interview with another friend that immigrated from Mexico, and he did it through an L1 work visa, just like me. In this episode, instead of just doing an interview and just telling his story, we decided to do more like a sharing of our experience and trying to give some advice on how we dealt with those situations. And so, just like the other episodes, just like in previous episodes, I will be splitting this content into several parts so that I can have a series of episodes from one work, because it's taking quite a lot of work, quite a lot of my time to do this edit. And in order to bring you guys some continuity, I decided to do it that way. Therefore, without further ado, I want to give you this first part of the episode with my friend Martin, where in this first part, we talk about pretty much the first 30 days about our experience relocating to the U.S. from Mexico. What was it like to get a social security number, a bank account, a driver's license, find an apartment? It's a condensed story of what were the first 30 days like. All right, so without further ado, I'll leave you with it. Enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Expat Coffee Break. This time, I have another guest who is coming back for a second time, recording his experience moving to the United States, but we're doing it in English for all of you speaking English folks that might have been wanting to listen to my guest speak, although the first time he did it in Spanish. This time we're going to talk about his experience relocating, moving in, settling into the United States, talking about his experience getting a social security number, getting an apartment, buying a new car, getting insurance, his son's daycare, and a lot of other stuff, trials and tribulation that we both of us have had to go through in order to move from another country and be living in the United States. So we're going to be talking about that in this episode. And with that, let's introduce you to my guest, Martin.
Hey, Javier.
Thank you very much for joining and making an effort to do this in English.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this in a previous episode where, it's obvious English is not our first language. We're born in Mexico and we speak Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
So English is always more complicated for us.
Yes, it's not as efficient as we speak in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's very difficult to express yourself or express your mind in the way that you will express in Spanish. But we will try our best.
Yeah, so...
Oh, I will try our best because I know that you are very proficient.
Thank you. Not as much as I like to, but I do my best. The podcast helps because it's forcing me to improve.
Mm-hmm.
So for everybody listening, Martin and I had a previous episodes, a series of episodes in Spanish, and he talked about his story, how he learned English, and kudos to him because even though he started learning at a late age, he made it a mission to learn so that he will improve as a person and as a professionist in his job and career. And so we're not going to go through the entire your story, because we did that in Spanish, and I don't want to be redundant. I like to cover more because you moved to the US a year ago.
Almost 2 years. It will be 2 years in January. I start first in December of 2019, but only for a couple of weeks. And then I return to pack everything, including my wife and my kid. And then we fly to here.
Right.
Around January 11th to be exact.
So let's talk about the first months after you moved to the US from Mexico with your family. And how was your experience relocating, settling in? Because there are things, you and I went through the same thing. Everybody that moves in, like you and me, with a work visa, that we're fortunate to do it that way, we still have to go through some paperwork and getting some things to settle in. which
Mhm.
is the social security number, getting a driver's license.
Yeah.
I know how stressful that was because you and I talk about that.
Mhm.
Getting a bank account,
Mhm.
getting a apartment, and these things might sound very simple for,
For people that born in US.
yeah, for people that are born in the U.S.
Mhm.
and it is not for immigrants. It's not that way for immigrants. And I
No.
want you to tell me and tell the audience how you felt, what was your experience like, so that you can document this for other engineers or other professionals that might be in a similar situation with an L1 visa or H1 visa
Mhm.
that might be getting offered the opportunity to
Mhm.
relocate as well. And honestly, there's not a lot of information
Yeah.
about how you felt, what you experienced, what was it like. There's a bunch of documents, there's a bunch of information about the documents you need to do,
Mhm.
about how you can get a social security number, which banks you can use,
Yeah.
blah blah blah, blogs, blogger,
Mhm.
whatever. But not a lot of people telling you, hey, you're gonna feel like crap.
Yes, a list of tasks that you need to do in order to get the visa, in order to get the social security
Hmm.
number, or the step that you have to follow. But yes, nobody explained you uh, like the correct order, or yes, how stressful those times are, because you have to achieve one time, or you have a target time to finish all that, because in our case the company pay for 2 months of rent
Hmm.
and 1 month of car. In the meantime, you find something, a place to live and a car to drive.
So you had we both, yeah. I know that
Mm-hmm.
we had a rental car for a month
Mm-hmm.
and a temporary apartment for 2 months. So
Yes,
that was your deadline.
exactly. You bet. It's very difficult because the first thing that you have to do is to set up your banking account here in order to receive your payments and
Your paycheck.
your paychecks, exactly, from the company. And then, but for that, it's a little bit of pain because you have to have social security number. For instance, Wells Fargo allowed me to wait a little bit in order to, then after that I submitted the, after the wait, I submit the social security number and everything was fine about that. But you have to have the social security number, which is a pain because you have to wait. Well, in my case, I did the I went to I went to the social security office, and it's a very long
Didn't
wait.
you get didn't you get somebody to help you with that?
Yes.
Okay, so let's move back a little bit.
Okay.
When we relocated,
Mm-hmm.
the company not only supported with the
No,
visa, but
that's
also
very
they
good.
got
Mm-hmm.
somebody, they got two people
Mm-hmm.
to help us. One with the relocation things that are related to housing
Mm-hmm.
and driving you around to say, here's the area so you're not lost. And the schools.
And you have to be very particular about that, because I don't know if she didn't, I don't know. I didn't request that, or I think I have to request that in order to happen, because I didn't do anything of that driving around.
Mm,
She only did like the Wells Fargo account, my checking account, and she did the social security number. And I emailed sometimes to her about.
so there was a person that was helping us with the paperwork. So
Mm-hmm.
for the social security number, banking account,
Mm-hmm.
and driver's license. There was one
Mm-hmm.
person basically holding your hand,
Okay.
taking
Mm-hmm.
us to
For me
do
too.
that
Mm-hmm.
paperwork, right?
Yep.
We got that. And then there was this other person that was helping us find an apartment.
I didn't have that person.
You sure?
I Yes.
Nobody was helping you with driving you around finding a place?
No. But you.
Oh yeah, you're yeah, I help you with that. But so in my case, I'm just making a list of it so that when I talk about my experience, I oversimplify it because I had a lot of support
Mm-hmm.
from those persons that the company paid them to do that.
No, for me it was, well, everything started when I received the offer back in September of
Hmm.
2019. So I officially started in December 2 of 2019. But the first trip that I did here, it was the last, or the, yes, the last week of September. And I came with my wife and my kids so that they can be familiar where they are going to live in the near future. So what happened there is that I don't know if I supposed to go around to looking houses or not.
If you wanted to.
Okay, but I didn't do that. So we just looking around the city. I was introduced to Diana, to my wife Diana, all the city, all the place that I already went. So in that case, Andy helped me with that because he took me to the Mineja Falls, to some restaurants, and so that Diana can feel more familiar with the new environment that she will be living with in. Mhm.
The support to getting to finding an apartment was after you moved in.
Yes, and
But I
I
think because you made a decision before you moved, because I show you around this place and you said I want to live in
yes.
this area.
So what happened there is I had my visa on December 2, and then that became the official day when I start here in the US. And then I traveled to Burnsville or to Minnesota in around December 8th or
Mhm.
something like that, so that I can start working immediately. But I work only 2 weeks. So in those 2 weeks is when I been introduced to that person that helped me with the banking account.
Okay.
And I was trying to do the social security number, but they require you to be at least 15 days straight in the US
Mm.
before you can start doing that paperwork. So she recommend that I do that after my second arrival
Mm.
or my official moving date arrival. So the only thing that I did in December is only the Wells Fargo account or the my checking account. And then I went back to Mexico. I spent the holidays there. I pack everything, and then we moved here the first or the second week of January.
Okay, so because you had this kind of split in your move,
Mm-hmm.
you were doing like because you were going through some work stuff and personal stuff that you had to do it split like that. Because of that, you had to separate some of the things you had to do to settle in, such
Mm-hmm.
as the social security number.
Yes,
In my case, I did it all in one go.
I can
The
imagine how
first week,
stressful it will be.
the
That.
first week, we moved in January, and keep in mind that was one of the coldest winters in Minnesota, and I was moving from Hermosillo, and I was crazy because I was going crazy because of how cold it was, and so I tend to oversimplify this because I didn't. I mean, I was kind of like what they call shell shock, like
Mm-hmm.
this, because of the cultural shock and the temperature, whatever, and just the entire move and how overwhelmed we were. And so we get, and you get this by default. The company knows you're gonna be busy on other things, thinking of so many things. So this person that was helping us with the banking, social security, and driver's license,
Mm-hmm.
that person will pick us up and drive us around,
Mm-hmm.
and will take us to the offices and
Mm-hmm.
tell us you need to in advance. You need to bring these documents so that we can do this. And so we basically just provided the documentation, and she took us to the place. We filled all the forms on site, and then we submitted.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember the first, because this is almost 3 years ago for me. The first week we went, the first thing we did was the social security number. That was the first thing we did. We just fresh arrived to the US, social security number, and I don't even remember what kind of documents, but I think it was our visa, of course, or visa and passport, birth certificate, and marriage certificate.
And the translation for that. I don't know if they require you that
They
because I
didn't
remember.
they didn't ask me for that.
Okay,
I can't remember.
I don't know if
Honestly.
they asked me for that, but they recommend that I have a trust.
Official translated version.
Exactly. So that's the first thing that I did when I arrived the second time in January.
Mm-hmm.
So it happened the same. So we arrived on a Saturday, I remember, and we went directly from the airport to the our new apartment, and it was, I don't know, around 7 or 8. It was very dark, and we were drove only casual clothes and a sweater or a jacket.
You didn't have anything for winter.
Exactly. So I remember for me it was like okay because I was expecting that kind of cold because I was previously in December.
Uh-huh.
But for my wife and for my little one, it was a shock for especially for my wife because she say I don't know what I'm doing here because it was very
Yeah.
very cold. Only a jeans and she was feeling very very extremely cold. And so she reminded the car. In the meantime, I can because it was very difficult because the instruction that they gave me was you you came directly to the phone door and you will have a lock with the
The
keys.
keypad, yeah.
A keypad lock it with the keys, but they specify in the front door, but there is like two front doors, like the official front doors for the leasing office and the official front door for the guests or for the people that live there. So it took me a while. I did some calls, few calls, and then we find out. But in the meantime, I was walking around with no winter clothes, so it was very. I remember after 20 minutes, it was driving me crazy. I was very angry at that time, and I was thinking,
And it was late, dark.
what the hell I'm doing here? So why I'm suffer through
When
this?
when you finally found that lock,
Hmm.
how were your hands feeling?
Yeah, I was. I couldn't. It was very difficult to open even. So it was. I was trying to because it was. I remember. The only thing that I remember very clear is how mad I was at
It's
that
so
time.
funny because I went through the exact same thing. We arrived late at night and it was freaking cold,
Mhm.
and we had some clothing, we had some winter clothing, but not Minnesota style winter clothing.
So not a clothing.
I didn't have proper gloves and I didn't have proper shoes.
Mhm.
So I was driving around looking for that damn keypad with that had like it's like a box with a lock into the key that has the key inside, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And when I finally found it, my hands were so cold I couldn't even feel anything. I wasn't able to.
Mhm.
Well, I managed to get some heat in my hands and my body by cursing all over the place, like "puta madre," and then just so angry at just the entire situation because it's not only very daunting and frustrating. I was very scared,
Exactly.
and coming from, I mean, I don't want to extend or perpetrate a stereotype, but coming from Mexico, I was at dark in the middle of downtown because I was in St. Paul. I was looking over my shoulder, making sure nobody was behind me trying to mock me or trying to rob me. I was like, I'm not gonna let them do anything to me. Just ready to get into a fist fight. I was kind of all alarms going off because I would have never let myself be in that situation in Mexico. And in the U.S. and not because in the U.S. it wouldn't happen. Of course, it will happen. But the point is, being in that situation is very frustrating, and I mean, remove the cold out of it, but being in a new place and they just mail you the instructions. They tell you and with an email, oh yeah, you're gonna find a box with a keypad that you're gonna find the key inside. Then you can get into your rental or your temporary rental place, but there's nobody there to guide you. You're gonna most likely gonna show up late because all of the international flights you have to spend all day traveling, especially to a remote place to like Minnesota. So there's no way you're gonna be there early in the morning where there's gonna be some support. So it's frustrating to going through that experience. So for you folks that might go through this, keep in mind you might be really frustrating during that place, and make sure you get really good clarification when they tell you, yeah, there's gonna be a rental place, a temporary place, and the key is gonna be under the rock. Make sure they tell you which one, because it's gonna be a pain in the butt to find.
Yeah,
it.
those are the small details. Like you didn't think through when you.
Nobody's gonna tell you about
Yes,
that.
exactly.
Nobody's gonna tell you. You're gonna be freezing your ass off trying to find a key.
And you have to be. In my case, I have to be comfortable calling to because I have numbers to dial in.
Yeah.
So I am that type of person that I don't like to. I for some reason, if I need help, I don't like to dial. So it will be better for text or an email. So I cover all the instructions through email. So I was feeling very safe about that. But then okay, I need to call. So
Yeah.
you have to feel safe on that because they are very helpful in that regard. So
Written instructions can only cover so much, and to be honest, they don't account for how you're gonna be feeling during that moment.
yeah, and it's very difficult for them
Because
for
every
them to learn.
individual is gonna be different
Uh-huh.
as well.
And especially if they don't have someone that has that experience in their company. So
Yeah.
it will be very difficult for them to explain. You have to be very particular of this type of instructions, otherwise they will get lost. So
Yeah. I went through the same thing, man.
mhm.
And so coming back to my experience, the first week I got my social security number. You said you had to do it in a split, but you in the end you got it. I mean, there's not a lot to talk about there.
The only thing that I did prior to the official arrival date, it was my checking account.
And that's what I want
Otherwise,
to talk about next.
otherwise, but yeah, I remember the first week I have to contact someone to do the translation for my marriage certificate. So I can do that. It took I don't know, like 1 day or two, and then I do well. The person that was helping me, she did the arrangement for all the appointment and all the paperwork that I need to bring. And I remember that it was a very cold morning as well. So the office, and we didn't have an appointment. We have to be in the office and wait as long as needed. So if it's open at, I think it was open at 8 or something like that, or 9, 8. And she said, I will be here from 6 waiting for you, and then you can come like half hour before they open it. So she wait for us, so, which is very good because it was
Mm-hmm.
very cool, I remember. But we have to wait even. So they open at 8, let's say, and we wait like 5 minutes outside, and then we go in, and she helped me with all the instructions. And if I have any issue with the translation or something like that, she will help me as well, even though she didn't speak Spanish. So because she know what I have to tell to the
That
official.
was for the banking.
No, that was for the social security number.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, for I mean, other than that, I don't have a lot to talk about, but it was very similar for me
Hmm.
because we were waiting. Just
Yeah,
had to show up early, wait in
and that is,
line,
yes, and
give the paperwork.
hmm,
There's not a lot there. The bank account,
it's
though,
easy.
it's
Besides
easy if you have the
besides the code,
documents and you have a
exactly,
visa.
exactly.
I mean, I don't want to over. I'm oversimplifying this because for us, we got support from the company that we're working for.
Mhm,
But I can assure you, if we talk to somebody that didn't got a work visa and they're here in the US without documents, they have a very different experience on how to get a social security number. And I don't want to go through that
yeah,
because I mean
mhm,
we don't know anything about that.
exactly. Yeah, for the banking account, I remember used to pick a bank is like a challenge situation because you don't know
Just
anything
picking a
here.
bank,
Yeah,
yeah,
because in Mexico you have the reference. I can use Bancomer, I can use Banamex,
Banamex,
or Scotiabank, and you are familiar with those bank, and what are the deals, or what are the advantage and disadvantage of any of those. But here you don't know. So
nothing.
I was talking to my boss, and he said, "Oh, I have Wells Fargo and everything
Hmm.
is okay." Okay, that's a good point. And then I have another friend that is in the same situation in another company through a L1 visa, Ramon. And he mentioned I have Wells Fargo as well. I've been doing the last 2 years with them, and everything is fine. So okay, that is
I
how
mean, the
I
reality
pick.
is for just a bank account, for a checking account,
Mm-hmm.
there's not a lot. I think any other bank will be pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't have any experience because I also have Wells Fargo.
Mm-hmm.
I was the reason I went with Wells Fargo because I just like you, I didn't have any prior experience. I used Wells Fargo because my boss told me they're everywhere. If you want ever need a ATM machine or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, they're everywhere. They
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of offices. You can find them everywhere, and they're big. I guess
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
And I also an aunt used to work in Wells Fargo, so I kind of took that as okay, Wells Fargo. It is. It's Wells Fargo. But there, we did not only you don't know anything about the banking system in the U.S. Usually, the first bank that you have in Mexico, for example, is
Mm-hmm.
because in my case, the first bank account that I had was where my parents had a bank account because I had a student's bank account, a debit card, just a
Mm-hmm.
checking account where my parents will send me money when I was in studying.
Mm-hmm.
And I just continued with it.
Okay.
But here in the US, you have so many options and
Yeah.
you don't really know. And let's go to the day where you open the bank account. In my experience, there's not a lot for me to say other than the lady that we work with to open my account wasn't really because we didn't have a social security number yet. We
Mm-hmm.
just did it that day in that morning. So
Mm-hmm.
right after the social security office, we went to the bank.
Okay.
Yeah, we went to the bank second. We either went to the bank or to the DMB,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. The point is we didn't have a social security number, and so the lady in the bank she wasn't sure how to proceed with that.
Yeah, it doesn't happen to
It's
me.
like, how do I do this?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a social security number, how can I open a bank account? And then which was like, we can't do it. And the lady that's where the person that is helping us really came in handy.
Maybe she got the experience from you and
Right.
and explained to the lady that he was working with me because I didn't have any issue. So I remember that she was having the same issues, but
Doubts.
same doubt. But she took my visa and she took the my Mexican
Letter of
passport,
employment.
and the letter of employment, and with that, they will open
So
the
in my
bank account.
experience, the lady that was helping us from the company I work for,
Mm-hmm.
just like, hold on. Don't worry. This is totally normal. This is not the first time we do this. I've done this many times before. I do this for a living. Call your manager, supervisor, whatever, talk to them, ask them about how do you do this. Normally, and she explained the same things they ask you. Lady that came with me explained to the lady in the bank, said, you need to ask him for his letter of employment, visa, passport, and what I don't know what else. But with that, you don't need the social security number. And the lady, I guess she was new, the banking lady,
Mm-hmm.
said, okay, let me check. And she went back door and then came back and said, yep,
Mm-hmm.
we wouldn't have any problem. That was the only thing that made me feel a little bit nervous. But after that, it was like a breeze.
Yeah,
Nothing
because
complicated.
you have to have. I was. I, I think you have to have some reference that you will live and work in the U.S.
Yeah.
so that you can have a banking account. Otherwise, as
Non-resident.
as a non-resident, you
Yeah.
cannot. So I remember that they give me like a 3 months period time so that I can provide my social
Okay.
security in that
Yeah.
time frame.
And that this is important to note because I know, for example, a friend in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
He was trying to open a bank account in the U.S. Living in Mexico, he doesn't have anything in the U.S. He just wanted to have a dollars account to save money.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have a U.S. residency, they don't open a bank account for
Mm-hmm.
you just like that,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're in some sort of investors, and
Mm-hmm.
then that's a different topic.
Yeah.
But if it's much easier, I mean, of course, once you're living, because you have to do it. Because without a bank account, you can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
You can try to live off cash only, but how are you gonna get paid?
Yeah.
And if you can try to ask the company to
It's
give you
very
pay
yeah.
checks, but how are you gonna, you can try to make your life with checks and cash only, but
Yes, I always. That is a very personal perspective, but I always think if we feel if we came with the work visa and we have all this advantage to be or to have or the opportunity to someone support us and do everything legally, I cannot imagine how the people that are not legal
they're not documented.
documented here.
Yeah,
I cannot imagine how tough are for them.
it is really tough. So in my talks with other friends, um, it is really tough because you have to get creative
Mhm. Yes,
with
I
ways to get a
mhm,
legal document
mhm.
illegally.
Yeah.
And also, there's a bigger language barrier. For us, the language barrier still is there, but
Mhm,
it's less complicated because we had some time to practice. For them, think about your mom and dad that
mhm,
they just being speaking Spanish all their life and they never thought they might have to learn English, and then suddenly they're finding themselves in a situation where they have to learn the language, or they might just try to live by without it.
mhm.
They learn ways around that, but it is very complicated.
Yeah.
It is, and so I think they're very brave to doing that. But I mean, I can we just don't have an idea. It's I mean
Yes, our disadvantage that we are explaining through here is are very small compared, yeah,
exactly.
to.
So we're
Mhm.
like what they call first world problems.
Yes.
We're bitching about things that is really not a problem. I mean, come on. But it is the way we experience it, and
Mhm.
we're whining about problems that are not as really problems, but
Yes, and we would like to other people share our experience so other people
yeah, we're
doesn't
just
go
sharing
through.
some.
Mm-hmm.
We're just sharing it because even though it might, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we might laugh ourselves and say, yeah, we're just whining about stuff that is not really a problem. Somebody might find this helpful because nobody
Mm-hmm.
tells you you're gonna be
Exactly.
dealing with these kind of things, or you might have an idea, but I don't know.
Yes, I remember another small disadvantage that I found is when I traveled the first time in December and then I went back, one of the recommendations that they give you is you carry the latest paycheck that you have. but because I didn't have social security number, I couldn't access to the network so that I can, because they ask you for your social security number to confirm that you are you, and you can print your latest paycheck.
Hmm.
So I couldn't do that. So I remember I was stressed just because of that. It's a small
It's a
a
small
small
thing.
thing, yeah, but human resources can support it on that part. And it took me a while so that they can do
So
all the
talk
setup.
about now moving forward with our first world problems and whining issues. Let's talk about the driver's license. How was
Okay.
that for you?
It was very challenging, and I remember that I was very confident at the beginning,
Yeah.
so I failed
Why you felt confident?
because I used to drive in Mexico a lot, so
So
I have a lot of
you and I had
experience.
very similar, like almost identical, because we're both like, "Psh, this is
Yeah, easy,
nothing.
easy.
I've been driving since I was, in my case, 16.
Mm-hmm.
I've been driving since I was 16, almost 30 years old now, almost 15. And I've been driving in a more harsh environment. So piece of
Mm-hmm.
cake. So there's two tests:
Yeah.
the written exam
Mm-hmm.
and the driving test.
I failed the written
The
exam.
first time,
Hmm.
that's the easy one. That's supposed to be easy.
But that's that's where I was feeling cocky,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
I was feeling like, okay, I know everything because
Yeah.
I've been driving, and I traveled to US and I just my Mexican
And never
license,
got pulled
and
over.
yes, exactly. So what, what can be wrong? So I went. I did. It's because the person that helped us, she provide a document
Hmm.
that I can read. So I went through the paperwork, but very superficial. So I
Hmm.
didn't read all the things. So what happened there? I went to the office to the DMV, and I did the test, and I failed, and I was feeling very bad about that, very frustrated because I have a very or just 1 month to not
Yeah.
doing only that. But okay,
We
so
talk about that later, but there was, you and I were both on a time, on a due date, and delaying our driver's license meant more stress.
yes, in this case, because you have,
You need a
if
driver's license to buy a
well,
car.
the first thing you think is, I need a car.
Hmm.
What do I need to have to have a car? Okay, I can have I can have money or credit. So if you have the money to buy a car, you still need the
Insurance.
insurance. So okay, I need to hire an insurance, even though you don't have a car, even though you don't know which car do you gonna buy.
But even in order to buy it, to have it under your name, you need a driver's license.
Exactly, is where I'm going.
Okay.
So you need to the insurance, and in order to have insurance, you need to have a driver license. So
And
all
the
those three are
paperwork for
connected.
the paperwork for the car.
Yes, it's very stressful and very difficult as well.
And so you had only 30 days
Mm-hmm.
because you only had a rental for 30 days.
Yes,
And your first week, you try to get a driver's license and fail.
exactly.
How long did you have to wait to try again?
I did on Friday and the first time, and then on Monday I did the second time.
Okay,
Hmm.
right
So it's
away.
exactly. So in this case, what I did is I downloaded an app, the DMB app,
Hmm.
and I was trying and reading and trying and
Memorizing the
trying and
answer.
trying and trying and trying and trying and trying and trying. So I become very efficient on that. So I then next Monday I passed,
Hmm.
and it's like I don't remember if those are 40 or 20 questions, but you have to pass with 80. So
Hmm.
if I think those are 20 questions, so when I went to the 16 question, they said I passed. So I have very good points of that. And then um, you have to schedule your driving or your road
Yeah.
test. So I asked them when is the next available date, and I was in January, and they said okay at the beginning of March or
Same for
something like
me.
that.
Same for me.
And
They're
I was
always
thinking,
overbooked.
whoa, okay, there is another, and they say okay, but you can wait here to see if no one, if someone is
Doesn't
not
show.
showing up, or I think you better came later on, like at noon or something like that, and maybe we can find a place. It's not, we are not assure you that you
Hmm.
have an spot or you have someone that will do the test with you, but you can come. So I went back to the office, I work a little bit, and then I went back around 11:30, and then find someone, fortunately, but which is
Did you pass?
Yes, I passed.
You passed the first time?
Yes, I passed.
Was very different for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I did it.
But let me finish, because I remember that I was doing everything at the same time. So because I was looking for a car, and I already at that time I already find an insurance in the progressive, which they gave me the insurance without the Minnesota driver license, with an extra fee, of course, and they offered me that, so I get that, so that I can continue with the process of buying a car, because I already found a car at that time, and I was doing all the paperwork, and I already contact, because I was looking for a pre-owned car.
Mm-hmm.
So I pay half of the car, and the other half it will be through credit. And that is the other thing that happened, like, because you are new in the US, you don't have credit records, so nobody will lend you money for anything.
Let's
So
finish the driver's license and then we talk about credit.
yeah, the reason that I bring that is because the day the date that I received the driver license that I passed, it was the date that the car was handed over to me.
Oh,
That's what, yeah. So
the car you bought.
yes, exactly. If I didn't pass that test at that day, well, the car will stay in the dealership, and I will start paying my car without having the benefit of driving it.
No
You know?
pressure.
Yes,
No
exactly.
pressure.
So I remember. I think it was. I remember that I was very, 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 very stressed.
Yeah,
at the time.
the first 2 months are well, the first month.
The first one
The
is
first
the
month,
worst.
because the first month you have to do it all,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that, you're just working and learning the ropes of the new position.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. You have to do everything at once, and that is finding a new place, finding a vehicle, getting your driver's license, getting a bank account, getting the social security number, getting an insurance for the car, getting new clothes, learning about the new job,
Wow. Yeah.
learning about the company, meeting new people,
Mm-hmm.
learning the city, how to navigate the city, doing groceries, new type of food, new type of detergent. You don't even know what the hell it is. You can read it, but you never experienced it before.
Mm-hmm.
You may have experience with some of those because some of those are in Mexico, but not
It's
everything.
everything at the same time.
Everything is new.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a big overwhelm, like just getting.
Yeah, because if you are in Mexico, or if you are in your origin or your country of origin,
Mhm.
you are learning everything through time.
Yes.
Like at one piece.
You're
Look,
experiencing it all.
start work. You are studying in the university or
Mhm.
whatever, and you're still learning, or you move to the new job, so you start receiving your paycheck. You already have a banking account. They will help you with that. And then after a period of time, you open your credit card, or you ask for a credit card, and then you start building credit. And after that, you buy your first card, and then I don't know, 5 or 6 years in, you start procuring a home.
Yeah.
So and
It's all you're you're learning adult life as you grow older.
exactly.
Here you have to restart. You have to live your adult life back home, back in Mexico or wherever you're from, and restart a new adult life in the US, and you have to learn the ropes like in a month.
Exactly.
And then there are some things you can leave for later, like credit, but you have to know about it, know that it exists, and learn to live with it. In my experience, coming back to the driver's license, in my experience, I passed the written test at the first time, but I failed the driver's test. And I was going through the same stress because I needed to find a vehicle because of the rental car I was going to have to give it out. If you fail the written test, you can take it the next day. If you fail the driver's test, you have to wait a week. So I wasted a week. And then the week later, we had a big blizzard. So I wasted another week because I wouldn't dare to do the test in the snow. I was like, hell no, I'm gonna wait for them. I didn't even went to the office. Back then, work from home wasn't a thing. But they were very flexible with me because they said, yeah, I didn't have to come into the office because in this weather, it's too crazy for you to drive in the snow. And so I stayed another week indoors. And so 2 weeks later, I wasted 2 weeks of the rental just because, well, first time because I failed the test, and second time because I didn't want to do it in the snow. And I went through one of my first episodes in this podcast talks about my entire experience doing the test. So I'm not gonna talk about that, but it was very funny and very daunting actually. Anyway, but I finally got my driver's test, and only after almost 4 weeks I was able to, because I already had the driver's license. When I got it, the paper that you get in the mail, that's when you can do your stuff to buy a car. In my case, I didn't go through credit. We can start talking about credit now if you want. I didn't want to buy a car with credit. All right, guys. I hope that you like this first part of the episode with my friend Martin. And let me know in the comment section what you think. If you like it, please share and put a thumbs up in the videos if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're listening to this on Spotify or Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, whatever, it'll be a tremendous help if you share this with your friends, if you like, review, whatever you can do to promote this podcast. It'll be super helpful for me as I'm starting out. And well, let's face it, there's not a lot of feedback, but I'll really appreciate every comment and every feedback, every piece of information that I get back from people about how I'm doing and the content that you would like me to cover. So, all right, we'll talk next time.